Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of From No Crypto to No Crypto. I'm your host, the Crypto Coach, Blockchain Wayne. Today we're joined by Pradeep from PAI3. Pradeep, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Wayne. Excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. When you and I talked, I thought this was just not another project just to say we're building on blockchain and AI just to do it. You guys at PAI3 have a mission and a purpose and specific focus on where you're going to target. And so I love that. But before we jump into all the great things that are happening at PAI3, you want the listeners to find out about. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of, what you've done in the past and what's led you to here?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. The FIO community, we are excited to be part of you all. Wayne and I had a great chat earlier, and I'm excited to be here. My background, I'm a big tech guy. I've spent 30 plus years now building complex IT systems in the Web2 world and in the Web3 world, a long journey. Most of my career was spent in healthcare, in working on various big backend information systems to power healthcare for all of us. And some of the systems I worked on are used by most Americans daily. So, primarily focus on solving really big tech problems and making sure the systems are adoption, utility, consumer facing, large infrastructure, all those data security, privacy, compliance, things that we at Web3 have to worry about if we want to achieve truly global adoption and get outside our own little bubble that we live in sometimes. But very excited to be in Web3. I joined the Web3 space in 2017, March of 17. Actually, I know the date, March 17th, 2017, when I
Wow.
jumped into this whole blockchain space. But I've always been, more about decentralization, data privacy, user sovereignty, compliance, usability, adoption. I've been very much on how do we make this decentralized world work for the world. So that's my background. But I'm a recovering techie. I'm always going to be a techie no matter where you put me.
Nice. Good to hear. So, is there anything like important or significant about that date other than that was your entry point? Like, what makes that stick out in your mind?
Well, prior to that, I was working with the Obama administration on healthcare initiatives that were very challenging. And we in the US call it Obamacare implementation, and I was implementing that across multiple states. So it was a very politically fraught time, and it was also a very intense period. And, I remember those years leading up to, and then when the term ended and the administration changed, I also left healthcare. And at that point in time, blockchain was just starting to take off. And I was asking the question, how to build a system that people can trust.
Mm,
Because I built so many big systems where somebody the other said, this is a great system, but I don't trust you or the government or the insurance company or the hospital. There was always this trust deficit. And I
right.
spent decades trying to solve that through reputation and relationships and credibility. But I got to asking, should trust really be based on me and people? Shouldn't it be, made trustless to achieve trust? And then blockchain just happened, and I started to ask, maybe this is the future that we all need to move towards. So yeah, the dates are significant in my mind because it was a big pivot. I spent
Mm,
25 years prior to that working in big tech,
mm,
WebMD, Blue Cross, my own companies. I'm an entrepreneur. But that day I made the shift and I said, you know what, we're going to be a community that's going to really change the way we think about computers and computing.
mm.
And trustless systems will one day rule the world. And I think we're on that journey. And I know we're not fully where we want to be, but we're well on our way. And I'm excited to be part of this.
Right. Absolutely. Definitely solves a lot of that. I think today, even, where you're talking about 2017, but even so much more today, people have less and less trust in big tech and government agencies and everything. And it's just it's you get to build a system where they can just trust in trustless systems where basically your trust is in the code, and even if you don't understand code, those that do can comb through it and evaluate it and poke holes in it. Much like
Absolutely.
over the years, many people have tried to poke holes in Bitcoin and the security of Bitcoin, and it just and I think those through those times it builds trust organically to where you can do the same thing with any business model with this tech. So
Yeah, it's that old Ronald Reagan statement, trust but verify.
Right.
And we as a community can verify it, we can trust it. And I think that's going to be the next big thing with AI too. If you can't, how do you trust? There are million plus agents right now in the market, a million plus agents. Now, this is based on Hugging Face and Lovable and all these agent building environments. You can build an agent in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, right? Which agent do you trust your data to? I mean, you shouldn't to trust most of them because you don't know who built them, why they built them, what they're doing. So AI is going to be the next frontier. How do we trust AI with our life? Because it's going to want to intrude in every part of our life, personal,
Yeah.
emotional, financial, administrative, relationships, everything. AI
Right.
is saying, hey, I'm here to help you. Great. How do I trust you? So
Right.
that's going to be a big question.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
what,
good.
I think FIO can help solve and we can help solve. And a big part of that is average consumer just feeling comfortable.
Right. Being able to navigate the systems without
Oh, yeah.
worry, fear, or just friction, really, right? So
Yeah, and there's a ton of friction even now in the system. But what you guys are doing, what we are doing, it's about taking that out, about making grandma be comfortable using our system.
yeah, definitely, because that's who we're building for. I mean, when we make it for that, everybody benefits. I know the old adage. I don't know if you followed back in the day, but because I don't think he puts out much content still today. But Andreas Antonopoulos used to always talk about that in terms of just the technology that's being built with Bitcoin and other blockchains, and how we've got to make it evolve, just like email has evolved, where email, 35, 40 years ago was clunky, hard to use. You had to have some level of technical knowledge, and today grandmother can send it with a swipe of a finger, send an email with a swipe of a finger on an iPhone or iPad, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid in computer science, university, we used to email on bulletin boards, right? You would have to sign into a bulletin board and you would have this character terminal, which we thought was super cool. And you would need to know the handle of the other side and you would ping them and you would chat with some kid in, across the country. And we thought it was super cool. But you show it to somebody outside that small bubble and it's like, what are you doing? And look at AOL. I mean, AOL was one of the most
Mm,
valuable companies in the
yeah,
United States. All they did was ship a bunch of CDs that you could install, and it would pop up this really cool "You Got Mail," application, and you could
yeah,
use it. And it, transformed email. And I mean, they bought Time Warner for like, I don't know, some insane 30, 40 billion
yeah,
dollars. Eventually, the whole business model changed. They didn't keep up, but I mean, they were one of the big success stories just because they made email easy to use.
yeah, yeah. And then on top of that, then the messenger made it easy to do like chat messaging back and forth as well
Right.
too. Because that's what I remember in college. That was kind of like our dating app back then. That was how I connected and we met people, in AOL chat
Yeah,
rooms.
absolutely. Chat rooms, ICQ, but look at WhatsApp, right? I mean, they basically took ICQ, made it more modern.
Yeah,
That's what they did, and made it
basically.
more secure. And there you go. I see, now it's part of the Meta framework. So there's a lot of opportunity. If we make onboarding easy,
Mhm.
I think we can get a lot of new people coming on. What's really interesting though, compared to 2018, is when I am on a plane and I start talking to my passenger next to me, if I mention crypto and blockchain and tokens, they would either glaze over or they would be like, you scam, right? Those who were informed thought we were all scams. Those who weren't informed were like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Now, I was on a plane recently coming back from Consensus in Toronto, and I was on a phone with my team giving them an update on how the conference went. And the guy next to me pipes in, goes, so you guys are like doing something with crypto? I'm so interested. Tell me more about it. And while we were chatting, the guy in front of me turned around and goes, so you guys are in crypto. Tell me more about it. People actually
Yeah.
want to be part of crypto.
Hmm.
They just don't know how.
Right.
They should
Right.
feel comfortable. There's too much noise.
Absolutely. That's a passion of mine is educating people on that. And so if anybody ever sees me traveling, like when I'm at a conference, I wear my FIO gear, right? But people outside of crypto don't know what FIO is, but they recognize that Bitcoin B or Bitcoin logo. So I'm always wearing something when I travel with Bitcoin. And actually, this time we launched an apparel line, kind of separate from FIO. It's another company that some partners of mine had thought of a while back, and we had a jumpsuit that was just like Bitcoined out. and so many conversations when I was in Vegas, and there's people that weren't involved. Right, people are curious; they just don't know where to start,
Right.
or if they have started, they get it. Something else I found this was shocking was part of that brand is every person that buys a piece of apparel gets some tokens, and at a Bitcoin conference, trying to like when I ask people what wallet do they use, I guarantee you at least 100 or more of the sales we had over the weekend, they they would say they had a wallet at PayPal or Coinbase or I mean Coinbase Exchange or Venmo, right? They never even sent crypto to their own wallet because that process is a friction point. And so it made me really realize that we've got to kind of do that. And so what we're doing at FIO and also what you're doing at PAI3 is going to onboard more users to where they're actually using the tech. And that creates a level of confidence when you can say, yes, I'm using this, I'm doing it versus even though I'm involved, maybe I may be buying something on Coinbase. I don't even know how to use the tech because I may have never withdrawn from my wallet, withdrawn to an actual wallet that I control.
Yeah, crypto's got to be an address, a handle like FIO handle. This is why we love it, the partnership with you, because we have, these AI nodes which you can run to protect your data, to run your agents, to even make a crap load of money over time by letting other people delegate your nodes to others. But it's got to be simple enough for a doctor or an accountant or a real estate agent to run that node. So one of the most important things that we can do is to give the node a name
Mm,
and say,
absolutely.
because if you are, I don't know, if you're a real estate agent and you want to send and receive documents or send and receive payments or book appointments, and you want to use AI to help you with that, you need
Yeah.
a handle like email to say, talk to my agent, my AI agent who is running at, Wayne's real estate company, so that people can actually interact with me. Who's going to write a 30, 64-bit address to talk to your
Correct.
agent? So
Correct.
agents need to have names.
Yeah,
So that's our
absolutely.
vision, that every AI agent needs to have a handle. And PI3, we will give every agent a FIO handle. We will give every node a FIO handle. That was
Absolutely.
super cool.
Excuse me. Let's dive into what more about Pi 3 and what you guys are doing there because people hear AI and running AI, and I think it's very similar to the perception that people have when they think about Bitcoin mining right now. Bitcoin mining in the
Yeah,
early days, you could run a little bit, but now they hear about all these huge data centers. But you basically are building on a distributed network to where people can participate in that infrastructure without having to build the data center, right? And so
absolutely.
let's tell us a little bit about that, how that's going to work. I mean, you touched on it a little bit in the conversation already, and then we'll go on from there and really dive in and share with the listeners as far as what Pi 3's focus is and what's coming up.
So in a nutshell, PI3 is about personal AI. So that's a PAI, pi, and it's actually playing on the Greek symbol so that everything is kind of tied to 3.14, the value. That's the geeky part of it. But pi is the personal AI. And what does personal AI simply means? It simply means that you can have your data under your control. You should. You let the agent interact with the data and the agent doesn't steal that information and you don't send the data to OpenAI or XAI. The data never leaves your node. The agent runs on your node, interacts with the data, gives you very personal, very meaningful insights. And in doing so, the actual computing environment behind it is not some cloud server in the control of a trillionaire. It's actually a decentralized mesh of computers that the community owns and operates, and they get paid the cost of computing for you. So when you ask the agent a question, the agent can understand who you are, what question you're asking, look at your relevant data, and then give you the answer. And all that happens inside a community network. So there is no leakage of identity, there's no leakage of data, and there's no leakage of money. All the payment that somebody makes to an agent stays in the network and pays somebody in the network. So we basically take the idea of AI is going to be part of every single aspect of our life.
Mm,
And you say, great. So then I want personal AI, not corporate run AI, right? So it's
right.
AI for the people, by the people, governed and owned and operated by the people. So that's the general idea. And to do that, you need to have either a personal node where you can store your data and run agents just for yourself, or you can have a professional node which you can do everything, but you can also delegate that node to the network to use as a shared computing power. So the professional node will make you money. The personal node will protect your data and keep you safe and let you run AI locally. And if it doesn't have enough power, it will borrow from professional nodes in the network. But professional node owners actually make money. They can print money. And to put things in perspective, you got these big companies like CoreWeave, which is now worth an ungodly amount, funded by NVIDIA. You got, Elon Musk saying he's got a nuclear powered data center coming, and you got Google saying we're going to put, 100 billion into another data center. That's all cool. But that's more appropriate for running large language models, the big LLMs. Training big LLMs takes a lot of power. Running them takes a lot of power. But you as a person and me as an individual don't need that power, to train our data. So we need to train agents on our data, which is a microcosm of what they are training on. So we can take and decentralize AI by letting the LLMs do their thing. We don't need to worry about them. And there's going to be a lot of LLMs. You got DeepSeek, you got ChatGPT, you got XAI, you got Llama, you got Gemini, and more will come. So LLMs, let them be the building blocks of generative AI. But what we need is a community-run AI network where we can build specialized models like legal or medical, or for our community, or for our country, or for our city, or for our, for myself. So these models can be built on the network, owned by the network, and run answering. And there is no need for us to rely upon the big LLMs for 99% of the query. But then you take it a step further, even these community LLMs that we build in PAI3, how do they use my data? I should never have to send my data to you. I should stay in my control. That's where the node comes in. So basically, it's a truly people-owned AI infrastructure that can connect to the big LLMs when needed, but vast majority of the time, it will serve your needs just fine. And one big advantage of doing it this way is your privacy and your data remain in your control. And there is no central monitor watching what you're asking AI, what are you doing with it. And the other big advantage is that if you're running a small business, your information doesn't get handed off to some big corporation. So if you're a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or a real estate agent or a financial planner or a crypto trader, a gamer, professional gamer, fun gamer, you're a developer, whatever information you have is private and you don't just really want to share it with ChatGPT. So then you can keep it safe in PAI3 and you can let agents interact with your data on your terms. So it's really about building a very open AI economy where the money doesn't leave the economy. More money comes in when people use, but it doesn't leave the network. The network keeps getting richer and richer. That's the idea. And the people who make money is not some corporation, but everybody who is contributing to that network.
Right. And, we've heard it over the years where people have talked about how the big tech, right? Your Googles, your Metas, they monetize your data.
Yeah.
But the individual doesn't get to do that. And we've always been looking for what is that path to doing that. And this is pretty much a great example of that, right? Where you can monetize what you want to share with the network, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it goes one step further. So I don't know if many of you paid attention. Apple is paying out a claim to I don't know how many tens of millions of consumers where Siri's been listening to everything we say. Oh, yeah. We don't have to say, hey, Siri. It listens to everything you say. And then it's been selling that data to advertisers like Facebook and others. So in other words, we have had a built-in spy in our phone now for years. They stopped that practice recently when they got sued, and they're giving us $20 a piece.
Okay.
So for years of listening in on everything we said, we're going to get $20 each, right? So my family has 5 phones, my mom, my kids, my wife. So we're going to get $100. Yeah. And it's been spying on all of us, right? So the point is that the centralized powers know that they can get away with anything. And even if they get caught, they're going to pay. Yeah. I mean, what Apple's settlement is $63 million, right? Nothing. It's not even a 1 day's worth of interest on their cash pile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not even 1 day. I think it's probably 1 hour worth of interest that they're going to pay us all for listening on us for years and making tens of billions of dollars, maybe
Yeah.
hundreds.
Oh
So
yeah.
they all get away with that. They all know it. And we as consumers have closed our eyes and said, it's okay. This is the price of convenience.
Sure.
And I guess to some degree, that's a good bargain because we got a lot out of it too. But here is the problem. AI is not about selling. AI is about controlling. So if we don't draw a line somewhere, AI will manipulate the way we think. It's not just about our buying habits. It's going to shape our who we date, what we eat, who we vote for. It has the power to change everything about us and control us. So I think the option of trading privacy and our identity for convenience reaches a tipping point with AI where AI will say, great, I know everything about you. I can anticipate your next move and I can change your thinking before you even know that I'm changing it. Because you can easily train a model to give you the answers, to talk to you in a way that, I can pretend to be a friend and steer you down the wrong path, even get you to jump off a bridge because AI is that powerful and capable, right? And it's all
Yeah.
going to, and the way it's going to do that, influencing you and I, is to get access to our personal data.
Right.
So what PAI3 node does, it says, okay, great. I'm going to build a secret profile of the user, which is based on learning everything about the user. And guess what? Who has that profile? Only the user.
Nice.
So when an agent comes to say, okay, Wayne, I'm an agent that can book you a flight, you don't have to give this agent access to your healthcare. You don't. You just give it access to your travel dimension to say, well, here is my part of my travel, my profile in my node is my travel information. I fly Star Alliance mostly. I like to sit in aisle. I like to pay with miles to book upgrade flights when possible, but I don't fly business unless I have an upgrade available. Those kind of pieces of information the model can learn about you. And then when an agent tries to book your flight, the node can say, this is what you should know about when booking your flight. So we don't have to give these agents access to unnecessary, it doesn't need to know, the name of my kids. It doesn't need to know my health record. It doesn't need to know anything. So in that sense, the PAI3 node is your footprint, is your address, is your identity in PAI3 network, which allows the agents to talk to you properly, but it also does not let them exploit your information. Otherwise, you would just hope that the agent knows everything about you so they can do something for you. And that's a really bad bargain. I shouldn't have to tell the agent everything about me just to get a flight.
Right.
That's not a good deal at all, right? So we are trying to make that separation between keeping my identity private, but letting the agents do their job. And the nodes are your digital avatars that let you do that. And that brings us back to why we are so excited about FIO, because if we give that node a handle that's purely yours, then you can, using the handle, decide what agents can see, what agents can do, how they get paid. You can request money from others and get paid, all those great things that FIO does. So we're going to hook that into the node itself. So you have privacy, you have identity, and you have ease of usage, all three things.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. I think a lot of people don't realize like how many non-human entities are going to be using digital currencies, and they're going to need handles. They're going to, something that's simple than those long wallet addresses, because people will be paying those. And so you think of like nodes and AI agents, and the other conversation I had just recently with one of our other partners that is IoTex is just devices. Devices will have payments.
Absolutely.
I look forward to the day where I can run a node and mine some tokens from my refrigerator. That's connected because it's always running.
Yeah. And that's exactly where this is going to go. If you look at what this OpenAI Johnny Ive collaboration is, $6.5 billion. Basically, I call it a recruiting fee that they paid for Johnny Ive to come over, because his company is relatively new. And they were just like, Johnny, we need you. Here's $6.5 billion. Will that be enough for you to come and join our team? Is what this boils down to. And why that's so important is because he's one of the greatest designers of devices. And AI is not going to remain limited to chatbots running on open chat GPT. AI is going to go into your refrigerator, into your robotic, humanoid robots, if you really are into that, or even the vacuum cleaner. And our thinking is that PAI3 nodes um, will, but they all belong to you, right? These devices all need to serve you,
Right.
not, they shouldn't be serving Samsung Corporation. They should be serving you. So
Absolutely.
in that, connecting all these devices into a swarm, into a connected series, and having all be controlled for your best interest, that control should be in your hands. So that's again where PAI3 node comes in. So we think that PAI3 nodes, uh, will be the store of data. We expect it to be the place where you control all AI that serves you, whether it's in your device or whether it's in your chatbot or whether it's AI running in your doctor's office that you have to talk to make an appointment.
Mm.
Even
Yeah.
that, it's coming. So how do you interact with all this stuff? You interact with all of them through your digital avatar.
Yeah.
And that digital avatar lives on your PAI3 node.
Nice. Nice. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Since you and I first talked, I've been looking at it and, we're going to participate in a node sale. We're going to offer it to the FIO community as well. Just because I think participating in this technology is a catalyst for more user adoption when people are actually participating. I think back in the day, one of the first things I've ever run on a network before I even mined Ethereum was Helium. Helium had the hotspots around, and you were able
Yeah.
to participate in the network. And that actually got me deeper to where, you know what, maybe I will participate in some other networks as well. And you can have that incentive for participating in the network, helping to run the network and get rewarded for it as well. And with this, it's also giving you that ownership of your data too at the same time.
Yeah, it's
Um,
both. Use it for your own personal need, but delegate it into the pool for others to use when you're not using it, and let it make money while you sleep. But the bigger issue here is that it's about trust. It's not like there's going to be a shortage of hardware and GPUs. They are printed on assembly lines in mass quantities. But where it's going to matter the most is who do you trust? So the nodes have reputation, and those who buy the nodes early and start running them get a head start on reputation. And when people need a node to run their agent or to store their data, high reputation nodes are going to be at the top, which will get the most business. So there's definitely a huge advantage to being early. It's kind of like, start mining Ethereum before it became a 32 ETH deposit.
right.
And now it's of course cost 120 grand to stand up an Ethereum node. But
Yeah.
back in the day, you could run an Ethereum node, download it. I think you could stake probably $50, $100 on it, and off you go. And if you were minting Ethereum back then when it was $3, $5, obviously you're doing really, really well if you're even working. And that's the same thinking that those who get into AI inference mining early on and have their reputation, there is a 7 billion people who ultimately going to need to run AI agents somewhere.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. So,
And high reputation matters.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, Pradeep, we've talked a lot about what Pi 3 is doing, and when you and I spoke prior, you had obviously there's so many purpose-driven use cases for what you're building, but you have a specific focus as to what you're targeting. Would you like to talk about that in terms of who are going to be some of the first maybe clients of Pi 3 that will be utilizing it in their practice or business?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I mentioned there are two types of nodes. Personal nodes we can all use for our own personal benefit. And those are, they are basically there to protect your data. But the professional nodes are the ones that we are selling right now. They are $314 a node. Again, building upon 3.14 being the value of Pi 3.
Like that.
So it's $314, but we are, for the FIO community, we are very excited to offer a pretty big discount over the next few days, which will be published through your communication channels. And that gives them node at less than half price, basically. And it also comes with a lot of guaranteed earnings. So basically what happens is that when you own a node, every month you earn more Pi 3 tokens for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
This program will end. But it's a way to reward early adopters of the Pi 3 ecosystem. The more distributed network we have, the more clients will jump. So who are the clients? So we are focused on about the 10 million or so small to medium enterprises who are typically professionals who are governed or have compliance or data privacy issues. So think of it as the top 10 professions who need AI in their daily life, but would not be able to use it unless it's private, is doctors. They can't send your medical records to ChatGPT. That's illegal. Lawyers, they can't send your case files to ChatGPT. They get in all kinds of trouble. Um, Travel agents, real estate agents, financial planners, traders, chiropractors, dentists, surgeons. So there's a huge population of small to medium enterprises. We call them SMPE, small to medium professional enterprise, meaning businesses that are run by people we trust, right? Chemists, like pharmacies, and so on. And for them, the data that they have is non-negotiable in terms of its privacy. Your information, if they leak it or put it on the web, they go to prison or go out of business or both.
Absolutely.
So for them to use AI cannot be in the cloud. AI has to run locally. But then most of them are not tech savvy, right? So our vision is that the PAI3 community, which runs the nodes, is the foundation for them to store their data and run agents, and to know that this data isn't getting spread over the internet. So the PAI3 node ecosystem that we are promoting, and each node has a handle, and each node has a reputation. So there's a leaderboard that shows nodes that are more mature, have run longer, have a high quality compute, and have a history of running well. Those leaderboard rises. So when a doctor is looking to, let's say, build a scheduling agent or a vaccination agent, and we are building a bunch of agents like this for doctors, those agents need to run somewhere. Now, the doctor may be tech savvy and say, I'll run my own professional node cluster. Great, but that's 1 out of 100. 99 out of 100 are going to say, well, just run it on the PAI3 network because that's what you guys do. And then the node operators, like the FIO community, would make all the revenue from the agents running. Because when the agent spins, every time the agent is called, it's a revenue cycle, right? It's a flywheel that spins. So let's say the cost of booking an appointment through an agent is $5. Every time somebody books an appointment, $5 gets spent. That $5 gets split between the node operator and the agent builder, and some goes to the community for community growth. So these three people share in that revenue every time. And because this flywheel is going to spin faster and faster, not just because it's your doctor, it's also your lawyer, it's also your accountant, it's also your chiropractor, it's also your dentist. So flywheel, the PAI3 economy is like multiple flywheels, each spinning at their own speed, producing revenue, spreading into the ecosystem. So that's what the reward is. And so those who get in early have one more advantage. Not only is the node price low, they also get these 3 years of guaranteed token awards every month, but they also start to accrue reputation, which puts them ahead of the market. So when there are thousands of nodes or hundreds of thousands of nodes running, early adopters get the most benefit. So those are the reasons why we are offering the discount to FIO community to say, look, get in early. And the other thing is the node prices keep going up. Right now it's $314, but we're discounting it right now. As we get closer to TGE, the discounts will disappear, and then eventually nodes will be sold out. So you won't be able to get in,
right,
and not be able to participate at all. So then you will be paying people instead of making money. So that's the difference.
Nice. And I can remember, just to go back to some node sales several years ago, not necessarily tied to AI, but I can remember the Gala node. I passed on that thing early on when it was a few $100s. And at the peak of the last market, the nodes were being sold for over $100,000. I mean, because the network effect had taken over, and they became very valuable. And with this, every business I think out there is trying to figure out how can they leverage AI. And most of them just think I can go to ChatGPT and ask questions. But this, you're right. I mean, this solves a really big need to protect the privacy of the data that they need information on for your current focus. And really for anybody to just realize this is how you can actually leverage AI instead of just talking back and forth with a chatbot.
Let me give you a really cool use case. Most people will never think about it.
Got it.
Let's say you want to buy a house. Let's say I'm going to use United States as an example.
Mhm.
So let's say you want to buy a house and you hire an agent and then they negotiate on your behalf. But one of the real estate companies has said to us, build us an agent that can look at the entire history of the home and the neighborhood and the
Mhm.
zip code and do an analysis to predict whether this home is right priced, whether it's going to go in value, grow in value, or decrease in value,
Mhm.
and what's the likelihood, the most important, how much will the repairs cost over the next 5 years? So the
Right.
buyer can estimate not just the cost of the house, but how much the repairs will be. So it takes into account the building code, into the when the roof was last replaced, how old is the HVAC, and so on and so on. So
Right.
instead of just having that crazy addendum that we just sign when we are buying a house, which is like 40 pages, nobody
Yeah.
reads it,
Right.
AI can say, you know what, Pradeep, Wayne, before you buy the house, this house was built before the code was changed.
Yeah.
So before the code was changed, electrical wiring was, at a certain grade level, and now the code requires wiring at a certain grade level, and replacing that is a $12,000 expense, and you will have 3 years to do it.
Yeah.
This information would never come out ever in a transaction till after you buy the house, right?
Yeah.
So that's one type of an agent. But the real estate company doesn't want to put that agent out on the web. That's not what they want. They want the agent to be available to only those customers who are their clients.
Mhm.
So they can, because real estate is very competitive. So they're not going to put it on
Yeah.
the web.
Right.
So that means that they need to know the client, they need to know the house data, match them, and go, this is a good fit for you. So this is an
Yeah.
agent. Now, what gets really
I like that.
interesting is on the flip side, when you actually go sign the deed and when you transfer the property, you have to pay for title insurance. Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
title insurance is part of your expense. Either the buyer or the seller pays. And what that says is, hey, if the seller is selling a property that's not theirs, they have to actually lease it with a bank or they've done something to it and they actually don't own title and you're buying this house. And if it turns out to be, it's not really sellable, then the insurance company will pay you the value of the house that you paid $500,000 for. So your
Yeah.
$500,000 is being insured against fraud, right?
Right.
Title insurance is super expensive. It's a pretty big chunk of money, but you know who underwrites that title is the title company itself. So they pocket that premium. Now, if you had an agent that could assess the risk of the title,
Yeah.
you could either self-insure or we could have a community pool, a community LLM,
Right.
a specialized LLM that simply does title risk analysis. And the community can stake their tokens into that pool and collect all the premium forever and ever. And it's going to
Mhm.
be way cheaper than buying title insurance from the title company, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
that kind of thing you could do with AI and tokenized open economy and start pulling in money, billions and billions of real dollars that currently are not really coming to the Web3.
Right.
So my vision for PAI3 is that when we build this decentralized node community, we put on it use cases where the revenue flows to the community. We don't want to be just compute. We want to be great compute in the hands of all the node operators, but we also want to be a great economic model where the money is flowing in continuously from the real Web2 economy. So there is no line between Web2, Web3 anymore. We
Right.
don't have to say real Web2 and crypto Web3. We can just say we have a Web3 product for running AI that pulls in, hard dollars every day. So I want this to be a flywheel that sucks in new capital every day.
Absolutely. That's a great example, and I love that. I never thought about it like that. And it's funny, I use a similar example when I talk about just tokenization, right? When that title itself is on chain and all the history is on chain, it's going to be a lot easier to do that analysis too.
And just
So,
take it one step
yeah,
forward, take it to the
right.
AI use case, right?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's good to have it on the blockchain, but if the title is fraudulent, blockchain's not going to
right.
help you, right?
Exactly.
If the
Yeah,
title itself is flawed, who's going to pay you for that flawed title? Because, I
right,
mean, if,
right,
if somebody has secretly borrowed money against that house from a bank in Bahamas, and that loan agreement isn't known to the United States title, you can do all the searches in the world. You're never going to know that somebody in Bahamas has a lien against this property. And they never
right,
filed it in a court in the US because they don't want to.
right.
But you got a loan note holder who has first dibs on the property. And you just paid $500,000 for a home that you moved in and you're happy. And then a
And then,
bank letter arrives saying, sorry, but we own your property. And
yeah,
that's what title insurance is supposed to protect you, right? But
Yeah,
AI is the better way to solve it because title agents make mistakes like everybody else.
absolutely. Yeah.
So why don't we turn this into, and that alone, this one use case, Wayne, is $16 billion a year.
Wow. Yeah.
That's how big that one use case is.
Wow.
And that all
Great
that
stuff.
revenue then goes into the node operators.
Yeah. This is great, Pradeep. I'm definitely looking forward to this partnership, growing with PAI3, getting it out there. I always joke with people, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist or this maximalist. I'm a mass adoption maximalist. That's kind of,
Yes.
so when I see use cases that make sense for people outside of just speculative investments, this is exciting for me, for us. And so I definitely want to thank you for coming out here today, doing this podcast with us, sharing with the world what PAI3. I think there's so much to go into, and we're going to have to do a follow up in a few months, right? So, because we can keep this going for a while. But before we wrap up, Pradeep, can you tell everyone where they can go to find out more information and learn about PAI3?
Yeah, so the best place is go to pi3.ai website or join the Pi3 Telegram group or Pi3 on X. You can find us. We will be, of course, also working very closely with the FIO community. So in the FIO channels itself, there will be announcements and news about Pi3 and this. But I definitely would urge the FIO community to take a close look at the node while they are both available and discounted, because this is a infrastructure that will run AI for a lot of these cool use cases that I just mentioned, and there's hundreds more. And it's something that truly I am looking for with the FIO handle partnership. Makes it easy for everybody to run and control their own AI infrastructure and actually make a lot of money. Having said that, you can find us on Telegram, find us on X, but the best place to buy nodes is pi3.ai. That's where you can buy them. And it's super easy. You don't need to be some great complex. We built a very cool node manager, which you can control and use as a doctor, as a lawyer. All of you who are listening can also easily manage it. There is no complexity beyond connecting your MetaMask or your Coinbase wallet to it, and that's it. Everything else is super easy for you to do to buy it, to run it, to see the earnings, to delegate it. Everything is super simple from an adoption point of view. You can do it without knowing anything about AI or tech or even crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you follow them. I know I'm personally am going to be, getting a node and running that as well, just to participate. I love to try new things and heck, Pradeep, I think once I get mine, I'll probably usually a lot of times when I use a product, I'll do a demo video to show it.
Sure.
I've got a box on the side of my desk that has I don't know, at least 30 different brands of hardware wallets that have been sent to me over the years. And so that's typically what I do, do my analysis and then share it with everybody. And that
Please
also,
do.
that also gets people to see it's not as intimidating as you think in a lot of cases. There's been a few of those, not in that wallet side, there have been a few of those that was a bit complicated. You might want to change a few things, but definitely I love to do that because that's what we've got to fit. User experience is important in this space. And so I'm excited that you're focusing on that because I think that's a big friction point is the user experience, the UI UX of how you actually participate.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to add to the node manager wallet the ability to just select the option to mint a FIO handle. So as you're minting your node, you can also just say, give me a FIO handle. And for the first few thousand, community members will give you your FIO handle for the node for free. And then eventually I make it as an option that you can click on, but it'll be default on. So you'll get your node, you'll mint your node, and you'll also get your FIO handle at the same time. And it's super easy. We had to make it easy because a lot of the clients are not coming from the degen space, right? They don't have the ability to deal with private keys and all that. So as long as they have any wallet, they can connect to the node manager. They're all set.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Pradeep. Well, man, it's been a pleasure having you on today.
Thank you.
Looking forward, like I said, to a follow-up in a few months, and we'll be doing that as well. So thanks again for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening.